During the October 13th meetings, the Lansing City Council passes a resolution declaring Lansing an LGBTQ plus welcoming city. Many folks are in attendance voicing their support for this. Organizers from a tenants union working on getting Lansing to pass a tenants' bill of rights appealed to council to help them with this as they are being stalled by the city attorney's office. Welcome to What Lansing Council, a podcast transforming Monday night's Lansing City Council meetings into an enthralling recap. I'm your host, Jill Dombrowski, and today my very special guest is Rebecca Kasen.
Hi.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you so much for being here. Rebecca works as the executive director of the Women's Center of Greater Lansing. She has previously worked creating emergency housing, in disability services, and in social justice advocacy. Her favorite food is eggplant parmesan, and her grandfather is turning 99 years old this Friday.
Yes.
Wow.
Very exciting.
What is planned for his birthday?
Well, so he lives in Delaware, so I think that his daughter will be, they'll do a celebration there, and then hopefully we can fly out in November and we can go see him.
Okay, awesome. That's really exciting.
Yes.
And could you tell us how you would describe Lansing in your own words?
Oh, I don't want to use my words. I want to use the words of somebody else, which is uniquely weird and weirdly unique.
Ooh. And who are you quoting there?
Oh, God, why am I drawing a blank on her name? Elise Ribbons, that's it.
Elise Ribbons.
Yes. She said that was one of her driving factors to move here was how cool the city is. And we are kind of a weird city. Mm-hmm. But we also all take care of each other.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. And what's something else that you love about Lansing?
I love the genuineness of people and the immediate, everyone wants to jump in when there's a problem. You know, everyone is giving what they can. If you can't give financially, you give time. If you can't give time, you give financially. You're looking through your house, whenever there's an emergency, mm-hmm. It's really cool to see how things happen. But I also am loving the mutual aid that we've seen pop up over the past year or so, and people are giving before the emergency to prevent the emergency. And that is, while it seems normal, it is such a uniquely Lansing, maybe uniquely Midwestern, I don't know, thing. And I love it.
Yeah, it's so wonderful to see people pulling together and really preparing, mm-hmm. For things that could get worse. Mm-hmm. You never know.
Absolutely.
What's something that you would love to see change about Lansing?
I don't know if I want to use the word gentrification because there's a lot of emotions behind it, but we are seeing people whose families have been here for generations, people who really want to contribute to the city being priced out of the neighborhoods they live in. We are also seeing buildings that have these beautiful apartments, but the rent is very high and they're half empty. And I would love to see some sort of solution where people who want to remain in their neighborhoods can remain in their neighborhoods and continue to contribute to the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Certainly we've heard about housing crisis in mm-hmm. Lansing for quite a few meetings here and from all different sorts of people. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a reality.
Yes, I have asked council or members of council to look into, and this is not my idea, I can't remember who shared it with me originally, but to look into the possibility of a vacancy tax. Other cities have done it with mixed results. Some has been very successful, others not so much. Mm-hmm. But I do feel that after a certain amount of time, if a unit remains vacant, a tax on the landlord would hopefully incentivize them to lower the rent so they can get a tenant in there. Mm-hmm. Again, I am not an attorney, nor am I a researcher, so I've asked them to meet with those who could potentially, evaluate, is this something that would be legal in Lansing and beneficial to the city?
Yeah. I feel like it's tricky, too, because Lansing, I think if you compare it to other cities, surrounding cities in the Midwest, in Michigan, it is one of the most affordable cities. So we're already kind of there. And how do we, and I think that's something that people really flock to Lansing because of. Like, it is more affordable than Ann Arbor, than Grand Rapids, but still people are getting priced out.
I can tell you, I'm one of those people, right? I was offered a job here in 2020. I sold my house in New Jersey, which was 1,000 square feet right next to a highway for something, for about 3+ times the size in East Lansing. I just had an appraisal done on my home and I could not afford to buy it today. And I do know that I may be part of the problem, people moving here from the coasts, but also we're seeing, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, the rent increases, and especially you're seeing that in vacant buildings. So, if you've got 50 units and only 20 of them are filled,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got people who can't afford, rent, but who can afford something, it just seems like a mismatch there.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And so you work as the executive director of the Women's Center of Greater Lansing. And could you give us a little overview of the work going on there, the opportunities and the projects happening?
So we've actually in the past year, we split our counseling center into two, mostly on paper, but as a way of ensuring that we can provide free and sliding scale services to people who need it while billing insurance for those who have insurance or charging market rate for those who can. So we've been able to increase capacity significantly. We went from like 10 to 20 units a month to billing more than 50 in the first 3 weeks of September.
Oh my gosh.
So it's pretty big. And that's actually also that is also going to sustain us through whatever comes our way. We launched with the help of the MSU FCU Desk Drawer Foundation, our Bold Steps Business Lab this year. And that is super exciting. We have, as of yesterday, I believe 21 participants.
Wow.
It is free coaching for entrepreneurs. You could be at any stage. But we generally tend to focus on people who are contemplating opening a business or have a business in its first few months or years. We are not looking to help people launch their next Fortune 500 company. That there are organizations that do that. What we're looking for is, as we've talked about, times are tough. So we're helping those with the side hustle, the sole proprietorship, things like that. We also help about 20% of the people who come to us either significantly modify their business or decide that maybe entrepreneurship isn't for them, because we don't want somebody to cash in their life savings for a business model that's not going to work. So we maybe, show the benefits, and, consequences. We also provide over 250 units of hygiene supplies every single day that we are open.
Amazing.
And about 50 plus on weekends because we have a little free pantry. We have our career boutique, which is feminine professional clothing that people can come and get, usually 2 outfits a month, although there are some exceptions. Like if somebody, for example, had a house fire, I'm not going to say you can only get 2 outfits.
Sure.
Things like that. We do career services, so help people write their resumes, job searching, for example. We get people across the spectrum. So we have people coming out of Women's Huron Valley, which is the women's correctional facility in Washtenaw County, I believe.
Oh, wow.
They've maybe been incarcerated for 20 years and have never applied for a job online. So we're doing basic computer skills, just kind of showing that stuff. We, let's see what else. We've got our support groups. And this one is kind of fun for me personally, our Tuesday morning body doubling.
Oh.
So we had a job seeker support group pre-COVID, and post-COVID, when we tried to bring it back, nobody was showing up. And we realized there was a lot of reasons for that. But when surveying our clients and members of the community, most people just wanted a few hours where they don't have to interact even, but just having a second person in the room, a third person in the room, helps them stay on task. So Tuesday mornings from 10 to noon, I believe, it's body doubling time. And
like a work group kind of
kind
thing?
Kind of a work group. Yeah, you just come in. We have staff there to help. If somebody needs help, like I was out there last week or before, somebody was working on their resume and just asked me to, double check a few things. But it's just sometimes studies are showing that being in the same room as another person helps people be more productive, helps people stay on task. Also, leaving your physical home can also help you get stuff done. I'm not wading into the telework debate with this, which we actually have a comprehensive policy on, which I can talk about in a second because I'm really proud of that. But I do, for my staff that do telework, we do talk about sometimes, just going to a coffee shop because it gets you out of there.
Absolutely.
I do want to talk about our telework policy because I just think this is so uniquely to the Women's Center and kind of my big thing there. For me personally, the Women's Center is the first place that I can be uniquely me. I'm weird, I'm neurodivergent, I'm so many things, as are my staff. And I try to create a place that everyone can be their own unique self. 2 years ago, I was invited to be part of some cohort learning for executive directors of women's organizations. And our final project was we had to look at one of our policies and make it more equitable. So I took our telework policy, which we actually didn't really have one. It was kind of like at the ED's discretion. And I decided for all positions that are not front of house kind of positions, obviously, we are going to have a 25% telework policy done quarterly. So for somebody like myself who has an autoimmune issue, maybe teleworking 1 week a month might make sense, right? If I'm, having a bad flare up and I can be in office. But for other people, it's consistently, Tuesdays are their telework day. And then to be equitable for the staff, like our receptionist, obviously you can't work, if you're doing the, front of house.
Yeah.
They get, depending, if they're full-time, an extra 2 personal days a quarter. If they're part-time, 1 personal day a quarter.
Okay.
So, because I do recognize that, like, when I'm teleworking, I might take an extra, hour to go to the gym. Maybe I'll work an hour later in the evening, but you can't do that when you're
directly interacting with people.
Yeah,
sure.
So that's our policy. And I actually don't telework because I have children. And they do not let me telework. It does not matter.
But affording everyone that opportunity for flexibility.
Yes, and I have been known to go to a coffee shop sometimes because sometimes, there's too much chaos in the office or things like that.
Yeah, that's great. Wonderful. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing in our community, and wonderful to hear about all the opportunities there are for people to get help through your organization. A lot of this meeting was focused on LGBTQ community rights. So how would you say that your organization fits into the LGBTQ community landscape?
So we were founded by members of the LGBTQ plus community. We've always been deeply rooted in that community. We believe that a woman is defined by herself, and you can define who you are. Yeah, I mean, this is, very much aligned with what the work we're doing. We've been actually talking a lot because gender has changed. The understanding of gender has changed in the 20 years that we've been open. And we have plenty of people who are receiving services from us that do not identify as women. And so we've been talking a lot about how we can explain that you don't have to be, a cis woman to receive our services. You don't have to define yourself as a woman to receive our services. However, we are a safe space for women. So, misogynists are not welcome in our spaces.
Yeah. that's goes without saying, but yes. Thanks for talking through that with us. And it's great to see that there are safe spaces for everybody, but also safe spaces specifically for some people.
Absolutely. And actually kind of another little funny anecdote. After Prop 3 was passed, we started getting a lot of calls of people looking to volunteer. And we're like, great, that's wonderful. Until we found out that they were very conservative religious groups who assumed that we were something like a crisis pregnancy center or something like that. And so we were kind of joking. We didn't want to put up a sign that said, I love abortions or something like that, because that's also not who we are. Well, we don't provide abortions. We don't provide any medical services other than we have a consultant psychiatrist. We do referrals. We refer people to wherever they want to go. So if somebody calls us and looks for an abortion referral, we are going to refer them to a clinic. If somebody calls us and looks for a divorce attorney, we're referring them to a divorce attorney. That's just who we are. So again, we're not going to write I love abortions on our window, but we needed to put out a giant symbol to express our values of equity. And so I went online and found the biggest pride flag that I could find that fit in our window, and that is prominently there. There are days that it has made us a target. It makes me a little uncomfortable and nervous that we're a target, but we can't hide. And so we're going to keep that flag out there and, continue to ensure that, we're safe in our building. Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. Yeah. Let's get into the meeting.
Yes.
All right. So this is the October 13th Lansing Committee of the Whole and General City Council meetings. And present at the meeting, we have 7 out of 8 council members. Ryan Cost, our president of the 1st Ward, Jeremy Garza of the 2nd Ward, Brian T. Jackson of the 4th Ward, and our at-large members, Jeffrey Brown, Tamara Carter, vice president, Trini Pelivanoglu, and Peter Spatafor. Adam Hussein of the 3rd Ward was absent. Also at the Committee of the Whole, we have the city attorney, Greg Venker, the recording secretary, Sherry Boak, and Mark Lawrence, the mayor's chief of staff. So it was a quick meeting, 21 minutes. There was one board reappointment to the Employees Retirement System Board of Trustees, but the person seeking reappointment was not present and there was no discussion. So she got passed through. Next, the council was considering this resolution declaring the city of Lansing an LGBTQ plus welcoming city. The resolution was drafted by Councilmember Jackson and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, DEI, after members of the LGBTQ plus community came to last week's council meeting and asked the council to make a statement like this in support of the safety of their community after recent disturbing incidents at local businesses. At the end of the last council meeting, Jackson invited everyone to the following Wednesday DEI meeting to discuss it, and it sounds like a lot of discussions went on at that meeting. More meetings were set, and the majority of this resolution was drafted. Jackson mentioned that this draft resolution had already had some back and forth with organizers, and updates were made to state that discrimination by city employees will not be tolerated or by organizations receiving city funding. Some good updates there. Councilmember Spatafor, he wanted to change the statement. The Lansing City Council encourages the city administration and its departments to something that included the council taking direct action through their limited powers of making ordinances. And Councilmember Jackson pushed back on this a little bit, saying, well, what ordinance specifically would that be? He doesn't like having vague statements in this resolution. And Jackson says, we're in a strong mayoral system of government, so the main thing we can do is to push on the administration. But it seemed like Councilmember Jackson really just wanted this passed, so he accepted Spatafor's wording changes. The mayor's representative, Mark Lawrence, said, well, at the mayor's office, we're already doing all this. We have trainings, and we have made Lansing a welcoming place. President Cost soapboxed a little bit. He said, after all of the incidents that were mentioned at the Avenue, at Strange Matter, at Ruby's Salon, and in Old Town, he was there talking to the business owners and interfacing with the mayor and the police to help clean stuff up and making sure the businesses had what they needed to move forward. And he said, regardless of the outcome of this resolution, he will continue to do that sort of work. There were 3. So you said that you have faced some harassment at the Women's Center. Would you feel comfortable talking a little bit about that, about those incidents?
Yes. So the direct incidents that we can actually, we had one person really kind of accost my clinical director when she was walking between our 2 buildings over the pride flag and spouting religious quotes at her.
Gosh.
We've had over our Black Lives Matter sign, we had somebody very upset about that and try to destroy our little free pantry over it, which I thought was it just seemed like that was a big leap there. Right before Election Day, I was sitting in the front of our building, actually also, I think it was with our clinical director, and somebody was clearly somebody in a very large truck was pointing at our building, at the pride flag, and it was clear they were trying to get our attention, like, hey, we're here to intimidate you.
Mm-hmm.
What we've done, we've had a lot of conversations. You know, are we true to our values? You know, balancing safety and values. We had some great advice given to us from the Southern Poverty Law Center. They actually had a consultant who met with us about some ways we can secure ourselves. And Lansing Police sent somebody out, and I was actually very impressed with the police officer, because while he said he should, you know, he said, like, I know I'm supposed to tell you guys to take down your pride flag and things like that. I know that you guys are not going to. So let's talk about how you can be safe when you're doing that.
Uh-huh.
And so he came in and gave us, so for example, all of our windows now are shatterproof. We have security cameras, which was something I didn't love, but has proven a necessity in the current climate.
Wow. Okay.
And I could tell you, you know, on a national scale, I mean, Lansing's getting the attention, but it feels to many executive directors that there's no rules anymore. There's no decorum. There's no expectations that, you know, that we treat people with, you know, that we treat people with respect.
Okay.
And that has been a very big change within the past year, where it seems a lot more acceptable to just walk up to a place and threaten them or things like that. And that's very scary.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And that's an unsettling change. Yeah. And it's interesting what you said about the police officer telling you to take the flag down. And was that the recommendation?
He just said, you know, the standard recommendations are obviously you remove anything from the outside of your building that can make you a target. But
interesting.
You know, he said, but he was very clear, like, I know I'm supposed to say that to you, you know, but we're not doing that. Like, you know, he dismissed it before I could even say we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And I get that, right? You know, police and security experts, their job are to minimize risk. And in an ideal world, we could minimize risk, but we can't minimize risk and disenfranchise.
Compromise on the values.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. So there were 3 folks at the meeting who spoke up to thank Jackson and other council members of the DEI committee for quickly pulling this resolution together. And one question that was lingering was, why is it for Lansing to be a welcoming city and not a sanctuary city? And this question went unanswered in the meeting, but during some chit-chat afterwards, I was talking to a council member, and they explained to me that a sanctuary city has some legal ramifications that would need more changes at the mayoral level to ensure some protections, and council can't change that on their own. Is that a discussion you're familiar with?
I mean, I am not an attorney, and I don't want to weigh in on legal or not legal. But, as we've seen in East Lansing, which is, I think, the only sanctuary city in terms of immigration in the state of Michigan, the term sanctuary city is really a statement of solidarity more than an actual legal definition. Because the reality is the policies in Lansing are the same as East Lansing when it comes to immigration. We're not going to work with the police or with the federal immigration enforcement, things like that. But it sends the message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know I was speaking with somebody who is fully documented who was at a playground in Lansing with a child. And the Lansing police came up to her and said, they were asking about a crime that had nothing to do, like, did you see somebody running through here? But it gave her this heartbeat moment where she was, for a minute, concerned that they could be ICE, and said that she's only going to take these children to parks in East Lansing because she knows it's a sanctuary city.
Wow.
And I think that that's the same for the trans community, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know that we have the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. We have all of these protections in place,
mm-hmm.
but knowing that feeling of, I know that when I come here, I'm going to be protected,
mm-hmm.
means a lot.
Mm-hmm. Can I be sure?
Yeah.
So that resolution passed into the general meeting, and at the general meeting, it did pass unanimously.
I'm actually very surprised about that and impressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was a long break, so the general meeting began, and Clerk Brian P. Jackson was there. Clerk Chris Swope was not in attendance. Also, Mayor Andy Shore joined. To start off, Clerk Jackson detailed the times for early voting, and they have a new election office on Jolly Road, so if people want to vote early, they can go to the election office there. And the mayor gave some weekend event recaps, as he likes to do, as well as construction updates, and he introduced the next phase of road construction along Michigan Avenue. President Cost was very grumpy about this. It's very disruptive to his neighborhood, and the Women's Center is right along Michigan Ave. How's the construction been going for you?
This has gone on forever.
Yeah.
And again, I understand it's a bigger project, but this started around the same time that Coolidge Avenue in East Lansing was being repaved and fixed up. Coolidge Ave was stopped for 2 weeks. We're in year 2. We're going into year 3, I think, of this.
Mm-hmm.
This has caused my foot traffic to go down. And okay, as a nonprofit, that's not, that's bad on many levels, but it's not as bad as some of the businesses that might not survive. We can do things through our mutual aid. If somebody can't get to us, we can see if there's somebody who lives in their neighborhood that might be able to drop stuff off, or, we can pivot to telehealth, things like that. I do know, for example, Jerusalem Bakery has really struggled through this.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I'm glad they're doing it in sections, and so like the whole street has not been shut down, but it has just gone on way too long, and I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't, and again, this is my concerns about equity, right? Well, the people of East Lansing, which is a wealthier community, it is because they would not allow this to happen, so it can happen in Lansing, which is a lower that particular neighborhood in particular is a much more struggling community.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but it just seems to be going on way too long, and it's harming people. It's harder for people to get to work. The bus, obviously they had to reroute all the CATA buses, which
adds commute time to everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah. So more of that to come. Let's see. Then a new second ward representative is on the Parks and Recreation Citizens Advisory Board. He was sworn in. This is Chris Green Shedminski. In the consent agenda, there were some more board reappointments, as well as setting a noise permit hearing, acceptance of some grant monies, and many traffic control updates for new stop signs, yield signs, and parking changes at various locations around the city. There were 7 public comments related to asking for the protections for the LGBTQ plus community, and many of them said thank you for your quick work and collaboration on this resolution, but this is just a starting point. Hate is on the rise in the nation and in our city, and there are many more things that can be done to provide support. And they talked about support for businesses, specifically for LGBTQ plus businesses, budget items, board appointments, forming a dedicated advisory board, a city ban on conversion therapy. And one commenter talked about how people are fleeing from states that aren't welcoming. And another one said how they're not interested in future police involvement because of a history of bias in police work, targeting certain groups, and the police use of intimidation and violence to keep folks in line. And they said the enemy of fascism is community, so let's invest in community over fear. Councilmember Jackson said, thank you all for bringing this to us. And he mentioned how only 4 of the 8 council members could be present at that Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion committee meeting because of the Open Meeting Act. They can't have a quorum anywhere outside of the council meetings. So I think it was good to explain that, why not everybody could be there to talk to them. So after the resolution passed, a bunch of folks headed out, and council updated a few more things like the bidding process for city contract work to account for inflation and the threshold for what is required to set off the bidding process. And the mayor thanked folks for being there and for speaking up in support of the LGBTQ plus community. And he said the city is already doing a great job with this, but we will continue to stay vigilant. Have you talked to the mayor at all about how your group is working, and have you received support from him directly, would you say?
I will say yes. Unfortunately, especially in regards to Michigan Avenue construction, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the person with the direct line to the mayor might get things done.
Mm-hmm.
And this is... it's happened a few times. I've had to go directly to him. So amongst the things, we were told the contractor was telling us that they were going to shut down the front of our building for 2 weeks. And that's not going to happen. That's not safe for my client. So it was so I had to go to him, and then I had to go to him again when they were telling us that they were not going to put a ramp in front of our building. Like, they destroyed the ramp and they weren't going to. And I understand their arguments, but that's not how this is going to go. So unfortunately I had to go to his office multiple times, and then every time it was resolved within 24 hours. But what upsets me is I shouldn't have to go to the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I did tell his chief of staff over another issue. I am resourceful enough. I'm going to get a hold of everyone's phone number, email address. And I have the status, just by being the executive director of the Women's Center. What about that elderly woman on the corner who doesn't have that luxury? And so, yes, we're getting response, but I don't know that the majority of the city is. And I mean, this is a whole bigger debate about the strong mayor versus the strong city manager. I can tell you, as somebody who does not live in Lansing, and I live in East Lansing, the strong city manager, I have the same problem in East Lansing, not getting calls back, not getting emails back, things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't have status in East Lansing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just constituent who lives, here. So I don't know the answer. But yes, I am getting good results, but I also recognize that a lot of people aren't.
Yeah. Okay. That's a fair assessment. Thanks for sharing your experience.
Yeah.
I like to give a best dressed for each meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So this time my best dress goes to an audience member who had on a white and candy-colored rainbow striped sundress, and also a sweater that was cream and pink, and a sparkly blue butterfly necklace.
I love that.
So wonderful outfit there.
I want to see that picture, and I got to go back and watch the video.
This person did not give a comment, unfortunately. I have thought about asking people if I can take their photo for the podcast, but I haven't quite gotten up my confidence to do that.
So I have not listened to every episode. How often does Chris Swope
Chris Swope
get the
I mean, very often.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say 50%, but I mean, it's tough because he dresses so well.
He is. He's one of the best dressed people in Lansing.
Yeah, and I know that he co-owns a clothing store, so it's a little bit of an unfair advantage, but still, I mean...
You could own a clothing store and still not be the best dressed.
Definitely, but he is.
Yes.
And he also wasn't present at this meeting.
Yeah.
So the deputy clerk, Brian P. Jackson, did have on a purple shirt and then a blue blazer, so he was looking pretty good, but not enough for best dressed. So then we had a few closing public comments. 3 were from the Rent is Too Damn High Tenants Union, and they are working on a tenants' bill of rights. And they talked about the community support that they are garnering behind this, and also some horror stories they've heard about lax landlord accountability. They said they've sent their proposed ordinance changes to the city attorney's office for review in June and have not heard back. It would be great to hear back so they can continue to move forward on this project. They mentioned how Lansing's existing ordinances surrounding tenants falls way short of other Michigan cities where they have more rules protecting renters, such as reducing discrimination for formerly incarcerated folks, the right to receive counsel when faced with eviction, the right to organize tenant unions without a fear of retaliation, the right to repair and deduct if they pay for fixing big structural issues on their own, and the right to longer lead time on contract renewal or relocation. During these comments, President Cost walks over to whisper with Attorney Venker, and I'm assuming it was to get an update from him on if things are moving forward. Then there was a comment from a man who has come to previous meetings complaining about how semi-trucks are parked on the property right next to his house, and the noise and fumes from these trucks are making his home unlivable. One commenter was asking for a community center in Ward 2. There would probably be more community organizations in Ward 2 if there was a community center there. Then there were 2 comments about the proposed charter changes. And these folks were basically saying these changes will not give more power to the people. The charter needs to try again. We're voting no. And at the end, there was one very angry comment directed at council members Brian T. Jackson and President Cost for the way they pointed out the persuasive talking points on a mailer the charter sent out a couple weeks ago. And this commenter was saying, keep your opinions to yourself. You are dummies if you are persuaded by this. Stick to your lane. And it looks like Councilmember Jackson was interested in responding to this comment, but President Cost was like, no, shut it down. Meeting adjourned.
And I think this morning I woke up and there's a Politics in Lansing Facebook group, and it looks like that played out in the comments section and then comments were deleted.
Oh.
So I don't know all the details, but I do recognize that woman is on the Charter Commission, I believe, who made the comment.
Oh, okay. And that's some good context.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I read, I watched her comments, and this goes back to, I said it a few minutes ago, but I don't know what the right solution of government is. As I said, in East Lansing, there's a whole host of other issues. Tonight, I will be, along with other community activists at City Council, talking about the racism in policing and how we're not getting decent answers about an investigation and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is fact. I did just see this in Facebook comments, and Facebook comments are not necessarily fact.
Sure.
But somebody said that the city had allocated $500,000 to the Charter Commission.
Mm-hmm.
And my question or thought is, why wasn't some of that allocated to bring in experts? We have Michigan State University in our backyard. I'm sure there are consulting firms that specialize in these things.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe looking outside of even Michigan for what structure of city government works for a capital city.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it has to be either or with strong mayor or strong city manager. I don't know.
I think there is a lot of grayscale within that. Yeah. Yeah. So that was the meeting. And the next meeting will be in 2 weeks on October 27th. And our guest will be Anisha Dillard. And she is a longtime attendee of council meetings. And I'm excited to talk to her. I think she's going to have some great insight.
Awesome.
Anything you would like to give a shout out for?
Always have a bunch of events coming up because this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. But I'm also going to shout out, tickets just went on sale for our We Laugh comedy show in February. That sells out every year. So if you are interested, I would get your tickets today versus waiting till the last minute. This year we moved it to Copper Moon, and I want to thank them again and again and again and again, because they are not charging us for the space. They did that as a donation.
Oh,
in
wow.
kind, which is huge for us.
Yeah, amazing.
It's saving thousands. But we're super excited about that.
Nice. And if you are interested in seeing the bingo results from the meeting, I have those up on the Patreon page, and also an issue map of the various traffic control things that got updated through the consent agenda. There weren't a lot of spatial things being talked about so much at this meeting, but I put those traffic control things up on there. So thank you so much, Rebecca, for coming. And I really appreciate all the work you're doing and your insight into how things are going in Lansing and the community. So thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you.
And thank you to the Public Media Center for letting us record with you. And thank you all for listening.